Akiteru was a high school boy with an unusual view of love. To him, affection wasn't something expressed through teasing or playful provocation. While others found joy in taunting the ones they liked, he believed sincerity carried far more weight. He preferred to treat those he cared about with warmth and kindness, convinced that genuine gestures spoke louder than jokes. Yet his heart betrayed him in curious ways. Despite his gentle ideals, he found himself drawn to bold, outspoken girls. The contrast between his beliefs and his desires amused him, but he never wavered from his conviction that love should be shown through care, not mockery. One evening, as he made his way back to his room, Akiteru heard a faint noise from behind the door. When he opened it, he was greeted by an unexpected sight. Iroha Kohinata, his classmate, and the younger sister of his friend Ozuma, lounging comfortably inside without permission. Annoyed, he unplugged the television, prompting Iroha to complain that he should have knocked first. Akiteru reminded her that it was his room and she had no reason to be there. But Iroha argued back with her usual sharp wit, claiming he must have known she was inside. She teased him relentlessly, questioning what he would have done if she had been changing and accusing him of wanting to see her naked, even threatening to call the police. Unfazed, Akiteru countered that she was technically trespassing. Iroha, never one to back down, smirked and claimed the law would still favor her side. She then suggested he secretly enjoyed her company, holding up a key he had once given her as supposed proof that he didn't mind her visits. Akiteru quickly corrected her, saying it was never meant for that purpose. Amused, Iroha continued to push his buttons, joking that he would lie on the bed after she left just to smell her scent. Irritated, Akiteru declared that he would erase every trace of her presence the moment she stepped out. Pretending to be offended, Iroha called herself his little sister, though Akiteru firmly denied any such bond. She then reasoned that since she was Ozuma's sister, that technically made her his sister-in-law. Akiteru dismissed the claim as absurd, insisting they were strangers. But Iroha, lost in her imagination, added that if he ever married her brother, they would indeed become siblings. Her nonsensical logic left Akiteru exasperated, and he told her to stop fantasizing about impossible things. Before the argument could continue, Akiteru received a call from his boss, who also happened to be his uncle, Tsukunomi. Hoping to avoid embarrassment, he asked Iroha to stay quiet during the conversation. Tsukunomi began by mentioning Akiteru's bold request to join his company without going through the standard hiring process. Expecting rejection, Akiteru braced himself, but his uncle surprised him by agreeing, but not without a few conditions. Tsukunomi's first question was whether Akiteru had a girlfriend. Unfortunately, Iroha overheard and began making suspicious noises in the background, making it sound like he wasn't alone. Thinking quickly, Akiteru claimed that he had adopted a cat, which managed to convince his uncle that he was still single. After ending the call, Akiteru scolded Iroha for almost ruining his chance at a professional opportunity. The next day at school, Akiteru ran into Ozuma, Iroha's brother and one of his closest friends. During their conversation, Ozuma mentioned that his sister might actually like Akiteru. The idea seemed ridiculous to him. He dismissed it outright, saying that Iroha only enjoyed messing with him. But Ozuma explained that this was precisely how his sister showed affection, through teasing. The comment reminded Akiteru of the theory he once rejected, that people often tease those they love. Still, he couldn't bring himself to believe it, insisting that someone like Iroha would never fall for an average guy like him. Later that day, after classes ended, a student approached Akiteru to tell him that a beautiful first-year girl wanted to meet him. Curious, he went to see who it was, only to find Iroha waiting for him. To his surprise, she was acting unusually polite and refined, trying to pass herself off as a model student. Akiteru, recognizing her act immediately, could tell she was putting on a show. Iroha ignored his disapproval and asked him to walk home with her. He told her to wait so he could grab his things and call Ozuma to join them, but she quickly stopped him, insisting she wanted to go home with him alone. Her straightforwardness made him suspicious once again, and he'd assumed she was trying to mess with him. He told her to stop flirting if she didn't mean it, since he didn't want anyone toying with his feelings. Instead of backing off, Iroha raised her voice and declared to everyone nearby that the two of them were dating. Her sudden announcement shocked their classmates and left Akiteru speechless, flipping the situation so that he looked like the one deceiving her. Moments later, Ozuma approached to see what was happening. Iroha claimed that she and Akiteru were dating but were currently going through a rough patch. Akiteru, bewildered, pulled her aside to ask what she was trying to accomplish. Iroha simply repeated her claim, saying that since his uncle had already asked about his love life, she might as well play the role of his girlfriend. Then with a smirk, she mocked him, saying it was strange for someone as ordinary as him to date someone like her. Still, she insisted that pretending to be a couple would make things simpler for everyone. Akiteru, humiliated by her words, refused outright, saying his only focus was on his future. But Iroha suddenly changed her tone. She grabbed his arm and her voice trembling. told him he was so focused on his goals that he forgot about the people who cared for him. Her emotional shift caught him off guard, but before he could respond, she laughed it off and revealed that she was only joking. She mocked him for falling for it, teasing that he must have started believing her. Frustrated, Akiteru told himself never to trust anything she said again. That evening, Tsukinami invited Akiteru to a cafe for a meeting, mentioning that a third person would be joining them. During their discussion, Tsukinami praised the game Akiteru and his small development team had created, noting that it had already surpassed 1 million downloads. Akiteru, however, felt there was still plenty of room for improvement, comparing his team's work to that of major studios. Tsukinami reminded him that their accomplishment was extraordinary for such a small group. Eventually, Akiteru asked about the conditions Tsukinami had hinted at during their last conversation. Before answering, his uncle's attention drifted toward a waitress and he began flirting with her, making the woman visibly uncomfortable. Taking the chance to excuse himself, Akiteru went to the restroom only to accidentally bump into a girl who had entered by mistake. When he returned to the table, he realized that the same girl was the third person Tsukinami had mentioned earlier. To his surprise, it was Mashiro Tsukinami, his cousin and Tsukinomi's daughter. Still confused about the situation, Akiteru listened as Tsukinami revealed his plan. Since Mashiro would soon transfer to a co-ed school, he wanted Akiteru to pose as her boyfriend to keep other boys from approaching her. Though the idea seemed absurd, Akiteru reluctantly agreed. Mashiro, hesitant but with little choice, accepted as well. With both in agreement, Tsukinami finalized the deal, warning Akiteru not to forget that Mashiro was only a pretend girlfriend, and that any genuine affection toward her would lead to serious consequences. It was, as he put it, like asking a wolf to guard the sheep, trusting instinct, not to betray reason. Until then, Akiteru had just arrived at school when, as usual, Iroha began teasing him with the same irritating tone she always used. That day, Mashiro transferred to the new school and was assigned to the same class as Akiteru, creating a wave of curiosity among their classmates. During the first lesson, Mashiro introduced herself shyly and, without realizing it, mentioned that she was dating Akiteru, leaving everyone stunned. A curious student sitting in front asked how they met, and in her flustered state, Mashiro blurted out that they had met in the bathroom. Realizing how strange that sounded, she immediately felt guilty and sat down, silently hoping Akiteru would stay quiet, knowing his silence was important. Akiteru, however, worried that couples who didn't communicate might raise suspicion, while Mashiro thought it was enough that people simply believed they were together. Even Ozuma was shocked to hear Akiteru had a girlfriend and realized he would have to explain things later. During recess, Akiteru told Ozuma everything about his agreement with the student council president, leaving his friend with an uneasy feeling, almost as if he had become part of a zombie story. Akiteru joked that all they needed now was a mischievous little sister to complete the scene. Ozuma caught the reference to Iroha, though Akiteru refused to acknowledge it. Meanwhile, Suzuki was surprised to learn that Akiteru had a girlfriend, since he always saw him with Iroha. Mashiro, noticing Suzuki's watchful gaze, gave Akiteru a sharp look filled with quiet jealousy. Akiteru quickly clarified that Iroha was only a younger classmate. Unlike him, Suzuki was fixated on their teacher, Sumair, even though he knew she only paid attention to muscular men. Determined, he decided to start exercising. Soon after, Mashiro told Akiteru to buy rice cakes, saying it was part of his role as a boyfriend. Akiteru hesitated, unwilling to move, but when Mashiro hinted that she might end their relationship if he refused, he reluctantly gave in and went. When he returned, Mashiro seemed uneasy, and for a moment, he thought she might be jealous. He quickly dismissed the idea, reminding himself their relationship was only pretend and that she still held some resentment toward him. The next class was with Sumair, who asked if anyone was brave enough to admit they hadn't done their homework. A student raised a hand and was quickly forgiven. Akiteru noticed Mashiro's unease under Sumair's strict demeanor, realizing the situation might be difficult for her. After an exhausting study period, the break arrived. Before class ended, Sumair called Akiteru to her office, surprising everyone and leaving Suzuki envious of the attention. Moments later, Akiteru entered Sumair's cluttered office filled with strange objects. To his surprise, Sumair suddenly knelt and begged for forgiveness, revealing that despite her intimidating reputation, she was at a disadvantage before him. Among students, she was known as the Poison Queen, but in truth, she worked as an illustrator for Akiteru's game group and often failed to deliver manuscripts on time. That explained her desperate tone. She still had unfinished tasks for the students' exam project. Akiteru spoke firmly, prompting her to admit that her stern persona was just a facade. When he discovered her latest manuscript wasn't ready, he demanded a progress report instead of scolding her. Sumair refused to protect her image, irritating him enough to apply a shoulder massage technique that made her yelp and beg for forgiveness. It was almost absurd to see the school's most feared teacher acting so submissively before Akiteru. To understand why, it was necessary to look back. While developing the game project, Akiteru had visited several festivals searching for illustrators, but no one accepted his offer. Exhausted, he stopped at a booth selling adult stories and discovered the author was Sumire. Afraid her identity as a strict teacher might be exposed, she reluctantly joined the project. Since then, Akiteru had been able to obtain her manuscripts whenever needed, even though she often grew furious with him. Before returning to class, Akiteru warned her that if she failed to deliver again, he would expose her pseudonym. Overwhelmed with exam duties, Sumire sighed helplessly. Akiteru planned to rest before dealing with her again, but she kept provoking him, forcing him to cut her deadline in half. Before he left, Sumire asked about Mashiro. Akiteru explained the agreement with the president, and Sumire expressed sympathy, saying it must have been difficult for him. He assured her it was the best decision for the group. She mentioned that the school had informed her about Mashiro's past, that she had been bullied until she was forced to leave her old school. No one knew the full story, only that her classmates had abandoned her. Sumire asked Akiteru to take care of her, and he promised he already intended to. She tried to stall for time with compliments, but Akiteru noticed and ended the conversation. After school, Akiteru invited Mashiro to go home together, but she immediately refused. Remembering their act as a couple, she worried about what others might think. Ozuma suggested Akiteru find a way to get closer to her, but it wasn't easy, as Mashiro had shown clear dislike from the beginning. As Akiteru was about to leave, Iroha appeared and began teasing him again, wrapping her arms around him. The unexpected contact embarrassed him. She leaned close, whispering playful provocations that deepened his discomfort. He knew it was her usual mischief, yet he couldn't help wondering how someone her age could think of such things. What troubled him most was that while he and Mashiro were pretending to date, Iroha's behavior risked making everything look suspicious. If Mashiro saw them, things could become even worse. Trying to turn the situation around, Akiteru lifted Iroha onto his back, catching her off guard. His sudden move left her red-faced and flustered. He planned to hold her until she admitted defeat and realized her teasing had gone too far. When she remained stubborn, Akiteru carried her across the schoolyard, leaving her completely trapped. Overwhelmed, Iroha eventually apologizing to Akiteru for lying and provoking him earlier. Satisfied, Akiteru set her down, treating it as a lesson from her constant teasing. On their way home, Akiteru suddenly asked her how to approach a difficult girl. Surprised, she listened as he explained the agreement with the president. From that day on, Iroha decided to act as his advisor and help him win Mashiro over. The next morning, Akiteru behaved like an obedient companion, catering to Mashiro's every need, which only irritated her more. She thought his actions looked ridiculous, almost like a clown's performance. Feeling unfairly judged, Akiteru grew frustrated. While Mashiro continued to scold him, Iroha appeared once again to tease them both. Akiteru used the opportunity to reveal that the whole plan had been Mashiro's idea from the start. When Mashiro looked at Iroha, she immediately recognized her as Akiteru's supposed younger sister, recalling stories she had heard from former classmates. Mashiro's expression darkened as she became convinced that the two were working together to irritate her. Later, Akiteru and Iroha discovered that Mashiro had moved into apartment 5001, right next to theirs. Iroha, Ozuma's real younger sister, lived in apartment 503 but continued to pretend to be Akiteru's sister. Coincidentally, apartment 504 belonged to Sumire, the infamous Poison Queen. When Mashiro found out, she muttered that Akiteru and everyone around him were nothing but troublemakers before running inside. Akiteru realized that by moving apartments, Mashiro was also trying to redefine her surroundings and regain control over her own space. This understanding strengthened his resolve to help her no matter how complicated things became. Akiteru called his team to his room one evening announcing his latest idea, a welcome party for Mashiro, the new neighbor who had just moved into their apartment building. He had already set the date for Friday at 8 p.m. Iroha doubted Mashiro would show up, but Akiteru, wearing his usual confident grin, told her not to worry. He already had a plan. All they had to do was bother Mashiro enough until she gave in. Before that plan could unfold, the Fifth Floor Alliance decided to celebrate something else, finishing their project before the deadline. The small party started with laughter, snacks, and drinks, though Sumire took that last part too seriously. Akiteru scolded her for drinking more than usual, teasing that she was always the one who submitted her work late anyway. Iroha was unusually quiet and polite, which unsettled him more than any of her teasing. She explained that she just felt a little out of place, since she wasn't officially part of their team but still appreciated being invited. Akiteru gave her a curious look. It was rare to see her act polite, and it somehow threw him off. Ozuma complimented Akiteru's cooking, especially the roast beef, to which Akiteru returned the praise, crediting Ozuma's tech setup for helping their uploads go smoothly. Ozuma brushed it off, saying it wasn't talent, just simple stuff anyone could do, and that Akiteru was the one who gave him the opportunity to use his skills in the first place. Watching them, Iroha smiled quietly. Then Ozuma realized Namako wasn't there. Akiteru explained that their scenario writer had personal deadline. Namako had joined the team after Akiteru sent a random fan letter inviting her to collaborate on their game. To his shock, she had actually replied and agreed. They'd never met in person, but she always seemed reliable and easy to talk to, unlike Sumair, who immediately protested when she realized he was talking about her. Drunk and dramatic, she tried to hug him, but he dodged. To get things back on track, Akiteru called everyone's attention and started discussing the plan for Mashiro's party. 6 days before the event, Akiteru made his first attempt to invite Mashiro by repeatedly ringing her doorbell. When she finally opened the door, he greeted her with his best grin, only for the door to slam shut in his face. Undeterred, he tried again on Sunday, but the doorbell had broken, so he stuffed her mailbox full of invitation letters instead. 4 days before the party, he passed her a note during class. Their back-and-forth scribbles quickly turned into Mashiro asking if this counted as bullying. He denied it, insisting he just wanted to invite her to dinner. She wasn't convinced, pointing out that her mailbox looked more like a trash can now. When he asked for her line ID, she immediately refused. By Monday, Mashiro was ignoring him completely. On Wednesday, he caught her at the elevator, reminding her about the party, but she accused him of stalking her. The next day at school, she scolded him for trying to invite her in public. Even so, Akiteru didn't give up. Later that day, he and Iroha went shopping for party supplies. Iroha got distracted by a stall offering free samples of cheese-stuffed sausages. She urged him to try one, but he refused, embarrassed. The saleslady mistook them for a couple and insisted he take one for his girlfriend. Blushing, he finally agreed, but as he reached for the sample, Iroha mischievously pulled it away, teasing him to beg for it. Seeing through her game, Akiteru decided to play along. The saleslady watched fondly, smiling at the couple. As they moved on, Akiteru asked how she could say, "I love you" to people so easily. Iroha said it came naturally when she genuinely cared. He compared her to Mashiro, who couldn't seem to be honest with her feelings. When he admitted he still hadn't gotten Mashiro to accept the invitation, Iroha teased that maybe he wasn't trying hard enough. She reminded him that when he really wanted something, he always found a way, like how he convinced both Ozuma and Sumair to join the project. Akiteru explained it was just because he saw potential in them. He hated seeing their talents wasted. Iroha smiled at that, saying his real gift was helping people bridge the gap between their wants and their dreams. While reaching for a can of tomato sauce on a high shelf, she lost balance, nearly falling, but Akiteru caught her in time. Laughing it off, she added that one of his best traits was making sure no one in their group took their freedom for granted. Maybe that was why everyone trusted him. Her words made him more determined than ever to bring Mashiro to the party. Meanwhile, in her apartment, Mashiro told herself there was no way he'd succeed. The day of the party finally came. Akiteru couldn't catch her during class, so he met up with Ozuma to confirm the preparations. Everything was ready. Confident, Akiteru declared that the operation to bring Mashiro to the party was officially starting. He caught up to her at the shoe lockers, apologizing and promising no more tricks. She didn't believe him. He offered to walk home together since they lived in the same building, but before he could say more, she sprinted off. He sighed, wondering how much she really hated him, then ran after her anyway. The plan depended on it. Mashiro, realizing he was still following her, ran faster, yelling for him to stop. He claimed he was just running home because he wanted to, which only made her more suspicious. Eventually, she stopped by the riverbank, out of breath. She told him to stop worrying about her. She didn't fit in with groups and didn't want to be dragged into his life. Akiteru frowned, asking where she planned to go. She never connected with anyone. He admitted he might have made mistakes, but said she should at least try to make friends. Before she could reply, Mashiro slipped and he lunged forward to catch her, both of them tumbling straight into the river. When she tripped again, he caught her, steadying her against him. Back on shore, he joked that they looked like matching drowned rats. To his surprise, Mashiro laughed for the first time, calling it the worst couple look ever. Akiteru smirked and teased that maybe the gods were blessing their fake relationship, to which Mashiro dryly replied that such gods deserved to die. He told her maybe if she kept praying, she'd start feeling better about herself. She muttered that praying wouldn't make people who hated her suddenly like her. Curious, he asked why she was so stubborn despite his efforts. Mashiro accidentally blurted out something about a deal he made with her father, then quickly took it back, saying she knew it wasn't his fault. She admitted she just didn't want him to hate her. Akiteru assured her no one hated her. She confessed that she was scared of not fitting in, of being ignored. Seeing her on the verge of tears, he told her it was okay to feel that way. He admitted he didn't stand out either, that he was just an ordinary person with average skills. She immediately disagreed, saying someone ordinary couldn't lead the Fifth Floor Alliance. Akiteru was surprised she knew about the group. Mashiro explained that her father often talked about the game since it earned good money. Akiteru corrected her. The profits just went back into development. She commented that he could easily be the most popular student in school, but he said no one even knew they made the game. He preferred it that way, keeping their success quiet so it wouldn't inflate anyone's ego. Mashiro smiled softly and called him weird. When they finally reached the apartment building, she still refused to attend the party, but thanked him for the invitation. Before she could enter her room, she noticed her door was unlocked. Akiteru stepped forward to check first. Together, they crept inside, tense, until confetti burst around them and cheers erupted. Mashiro stood frozen. Everyone from the 5th floor was there, yelling surprise. Akiteru sheepishly explained that this was actually his apartment. They just placed a fake divider to make it look like hers. Mashiro frowned, asking why they went so far when she didn't even consider them friends. Iroha admitted that none of them were really friends except for her and Ozuma, though she added she'd rather see them as a couple. Sumair immediately jumped in, creating an over-the-top romantic scenario between them until Akiteru hit her with a pillow. Iroha explained that they all just happened to live on the same floor and started doing things together naturally, especially because of the game. Mashiro noted that she already knew about it, and Iroha clarified she wasn't actually part of the dev team. Akiteru added that it was fine if Mashiro didn't think of them as friends yet. She could just think of them as her fake boyfriend's friends for now. He mentioned one missing member, Namako, who couldn't attend but was still an essential part of the group. Mashiro smiled faintly, finally agreeing to stay. By the end of the night, laughter filled the room. After the guests left, Iroha burst into Akiteru's room, nearly hugging him before he dodged. She got serious for a moment, praising him for pulling off the impossible, getting Mashiro to join. She thanked him for including her too, though she didn't say that she was secretly the voice actor for their game. And with that, the 5th Floor Alliance's chaotic welcome party finally came to an end.